Are you ready to hop in? You good to go?
Sure.
Okay, cool. Well, let's hop in. It's great
Okay.
to meet you. Thank you so much for taking a minute out today. I appreciate it.
I'm delighted to be here.
Me too. So let's begin our journey into your world of words and writing, everything that makes you who you are by asking you this. 5 years ago, this pandemic was changing all of us. How
Yeah.
did you get through that coronavirus era, and how has it influenced the way that you do things today?
Oh, I love that question.
Yeah.
For one thing, my book, I started 13 years ago. My book is called The Big Ask.
Yeah.
It features 85 different storytellers telling about the biggest asks of their lives. Anyway, I was not terribly disciplined in my approach to writing this book. I'd write a little. For months, I'd shelve the book. I'd come back to it. So this happened from, I can count 13 years back when I began this process.
Yeah.
Now comes the pandemic and everything shuts down, including my work. So I'm staring now at my manuscript, thinking now or never, right? I have no excuses. I have all the time. So I just bore down and finished the manuscript. So for me, it was a very focused time. I didn't have any of the distractions of what's out there because there was no out there, at least not an out there that was worth pursuing. So it focused me inward, and I had to look at what my goals were with the book, with writing. I acquired more people to interview. And for me, it was a very alive and fruitful time,
Yeah.
even if I think we all still battled existential angst about, what does all this mean? And what am I doing here? What's the best I can do with my time? And when you start losing loved ones and friends, directly or even peripherally, it does tend to point you pretty clearly in the direction of who am I, where am I going, what's next, what am I doing with my life?
Yeah.
So, fortunately for me, my book was an answer for a lot of those questions that I had.
Yeah.
It sounds really self-serving here. You asked me about the pandemic, and it happens to be about my book, but it really was.
Yeah, well, but it was a time for us to be inward reflective. It was a time for us to look at the mirror for all of
Yeah,
us, and we
yeah.
had to figure that out. And I think it was a good level of what would be a way of put it was empathy, but it was the best kind of selfishness because we had to figure out who we want in our lives, what do we want to do, where do we want to go. It was
Mhm.
that fork in the road. It was that waiting for Godot moment.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Now, there's a reference not everyone gets.
Right. Yeah.
Waiting for Godot, but yeah, that is the ultimate existential question of what are we doing here?
Yeah.
What are we
Exactly.
doing with our time? What are we waiting for?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I remember working at the YMCA years ago. I ran a couple computer labs for inner city programs, and they got this big wig senior vice president to come in. And it was very rare that I would go to big meetings because I was on corporate detox. So I'm in this meeting, and he brings up Waiting for Godot and asks everyone in the room if they knew about it. And I was like, "Yeah, of course. It's the whole existential story of all time." And he just whipped around and looked at me. He was best friends with me from that point on. He just loved it, you know.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
but yeah, what a great story. So let me ask you this. If I was to put you in front of a bunch of 12-year-olds right now and it's career day to school, and one of the
yeah,
kids asked you what you do for a living, how would
yeah.
you answer that child?
Hmm. I would say, you know how when you want something and you have one shot at it, so you've got to make sure that your ask is perfect and fully thought out. I help people do that. I help people to frame what they want in a way that makes it more likely that they'll get it. And that's you with your friends here in your class, or it can be your parents in a boardroom with the people they're trying to ask something of or sell an idea. So I encourage people to ask for what they want because not a lot of people do, but you being kids, there's a lot of things you want because you don't always have the means to get it. So you rely a lot on adults, don't you? I'm taking your question very literally here,
No, I
Joe.
love it. Yeah, I love it.
But uh, but the fact is that we tend to lose that faith that we could get what we want as we get older. We get a lot of self-doubts. So again, I'm here to help encourage people to examine what their rules are about asking and decide if those rules support them or hold them back.
I always think about this quote from the poet Charles Bukowski. He said, "We're
Love Bukowski.
born geniuses, buried idiots," and it's that idea of what you're talking about with the big ask. We have this wonder in our lives. We are just a bunch of just feral little things trying to figure this world out, and there's nothing stopping us. And as we
Yeah.
get older and older, it gets harder for us to ask for exactly what we want. Just like with what
Mhm.
you're talking about. And it's like even during the pandemic, I'll give you a little bit on my end with the pandemic. I knew that
Yeah.
all of the major jazz musicians were going to be home. Tours went away. So it was time to ask them, and what's the worst that's going to happen? Anytime you ask somebody anything, they're going to say no. But you know what's going to happen? All of those yeses are going to replace any sting you even thought you were going to have with any no.
Yes.
That's it.
Yes.
You just got to
Yes.
try. You just got to put yourself out there like a kid because a kid is so cerebral. They just go into it.
Yeah.
That's what adults lose when we get older.
Right. Yes. We do. We also lose the child's curiosity
Yeah.
too. We get very compartmentalized about what our interests are and what our world is. And we can lose sight of the people outside of our orbit.
Yeah.
And in fact, I have a chapter in the book about conversation, about the fact that in my observation, um, I'm often the only one or one of few people in the room, Joe, who ask follow-up questions. In other words, someone's telling me about going to Greece or anywhere in the world, and I want to know more. I want to
Yeah.
know what was that like? What was the culture like for you? What do you wish that we had that they've got in Greece?
Yeah.
What stuck with you? For me, this is a natural curiosity, and I feel alive with it.
Yeah.
And I've realized that that's not universal,
It's not.
and that there's a lot of fantastic stories in other people that can end right there with the opening statement, unless there's someone who says, "Tell me more about that." And
Uh-huh.
that's a powerful question. Tell me more.
Yeah.
And in the interpersonal realm, it shows we care. It shows I care about you
Hmm.
enough to ask you to go deeper with that. How
Yeah.
did that affect you? Tell me more about that. How's this sitting in you? How's it living in you?
Yeah.
But I believe that we are just getting far more distracted.
Hmm.
Our attention spans are getting shorter. And that makes a longer conversation, even between friends, more rare.
Yeah. Yeah. Certainly. So let's go back to when you were 12. What did you want to be when you grew up? What was your dream job?
I wanted to be an actor,
Okay.
and I did that. I was a professional actor for several years
Yeah.
and realized that there were other people who were far more passionate about it and therefore were succeeding more readily than I was
Yeah.
because I was good at it and I could make a living at it and it didn't drive me.
Yeah.
So I think it was about 27 I realized, okay, there are other things that do drive me, writing being one of them, and that I kind of like that more than the acting career.
Yeah.
So, but I wanted that at 12, that's what I wanted to do.
Be an actor. So what
Yeah.
was a movie? What was a movie that impelled you to want to act? Was there a moment? Was there a movie or an actor?
Sure. It was the musical Oliver when I was in the fifth grade. And I got to play Oliver in sixth grade.
Yeah.
And it was a little funny because I was sort of a chubby kid. And there's a lot of references in that play to Oliver being thin as a reed.
Yeah.
And here I am, in husky boy sizes. But I loved it, and that movie made me realize, oh my gosh, you could enter these fantasy worlds of history and music and color, and of course it is a profession. I mean, once
Yeah.
you're in it, it's a job, or
Yeah.
unless you stay very, very alive to what it is that got you in it to begin with.
So what about books? What were some seminal reads, seminal authors that affected the way you approached your writing or just made you love the word?
Mm. Uh, wow. There it goes. Oh, wow. Hmm. This does not make good radio when you're humming and
No,
hawing.
you're good. It's thoughts, thought bubbles.
Um, what the books that I found most exciting happen to be in the psychological and metaphysical realm.
Yeah,
I liked a lot of self-help. I loved the Seth Speaks books,
yeah,
which go back to the 70s, which was a channeled work. I loved reading about, oh my gosh, ESP and all kinds of, which then led into personal transformation. There's the sexy, magical side of things, but what does that mean as a human being? What do we do with this knowledge that's in all these self-help books or in all these mystical texts? And the invitation is to become more fully ourselves. And in doing so, become a little lighter, a little less dense, a little less clouded with ideas and more rooted in the present, what's happening right now. So that was always the thread. And oh gosh, I'm blanking on author names, but I'll give you one. Sonia Choquette.
yeah.
She's written about 26 books at this point. And I had the good fortune of knowing Sonia years ago before she moved to Paris. But she wrote a book called Trust Your Vibes. And that is all about getting out of the collective trance that we're in, trusting our intuition and our instincts. And even if we're the only one doing that in the room, so that we are acting from a more authentic place that is divorced from expectations about who we should be. And I'm saying this aspirationally, Joe, because I've not arrived there myself.
Yeah,
But it's always the call, isn't it?
yeah. I'm a little nostalgic today because December 8th, today is my son's birthday, and it's a real Dionysian day. It's the day John Lennon was shot, but the day Jim Morrison was born.
Wow.
And I say that because you just triggered a memory that I had about a year or two before he was born. I had this kind of Dr. Seuss kind of apartment and a house. And I had a book that was in my bathroom called ESP. And I absolutely loved it and I swallowed it up. And it was just talking about just simple things like our spinal column has enough electricity to bring up these weird things when we walk into a room and we have deja vu, or we thought about something and someone thought about the same thing, and about how all of these things connect us in this
Yeah.
energetic pattern that's invisible around us. And I find those books to be absolutely fascinating. That whole book was fascinating. Like, how do you run into somebody from childhood in your 40s in an airport in Paris? How does that happen? Now,
Hmm.
Neil deGrasse Tyson might just say, well, it's not as spectral and special as you think it is. But I think for the regular human brain, how can that happen? Like, just, but all those things, ESP and psychology, it's the backbone of how we interact as human beings. And to delve in that just a little bit further is absolutely fascinating.
Yes, yes, it is because I think the phrase that I've always loved is that we are multidimensional beings.
Yeah,
We are not just what we're seeing and looking at and touching in our senses, but there's something else.
yeah,
There's some people call it the soul or the spirit or the essence that, and fortunately, I love not knowing for sure. I think mystery itself can be nourishing. I think it's mystery and awe are emotions. And for me, they keep me aware of my place in the universe. They're humbling. You can't you can't have that sense of awe and mystery without thinking, oh wow, I am just this tiny, tiny speck in this universe.
yeah,
And thank goodness we are just uh, floating in mystery because what beauty there is in that. Einstein said that. There's a quote from Einstein. He says, um, I'm just going to paraphrase it, but unfortunately, I don't have the whole thing. But he says, I'm not going to try it, Joe. It's too good. I don't
yeah,
want to mess with Einstein, but it has to do with mystery and science.
Yeah.
being very connected, and that they both trigger our awe.
Yeah.
And that's where we begin with
Yeah.
finding the beauty of life.
Absolutely. Totally get it. So let me ask you this. Who's been that inspirational force in your life to create, to be who you are, to evolve as a human being? Hero, inspiration. Who's that been for you?
Mm. There is no one person,
Yeah.
but it is many people. The examples that other people have shown me indirectly or through my relationship with them. It's funny, this is not a track that I anticipated in this conversation, but
Yeah.
when I was in high school, I had a remarkable experience with 12 other people that completely changed my perspective about what reality is.
Yeah.
It was a psychic experience and frightening and illuminating at
Yeah.
once. And as it happened, my good friend Kevin, who was part of this experience, his father, pardon me, his grandfather was an Englishman in Watford, England, who also was a known psychic. And he had helped Scotland Yard with cases, supposedly, and all these things. Well, he was visiting that summer, and we told him about this amazing experience we'd had. And he's spoken a way about life and what you earlier called energy. And I was 17, and I'd never heard an adult man, let alone have his age, talk about things with such depth and wonder and clarity. And I felt like he was, in a way, my spiritual father.
Wow.
We had a connection, and I thought, I want to be like this guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I remember when this is out of context, maybe, but when I left the house that evening, this remarkable evening, with this wise man, he walked me to the door, and I got on my bicycle. And as I was driving away in the summer night, I looked back, and he was just silhouetted against the porch light, and he was saying, "Bye bye, bye bye." And I can't tell you why that stayed with me or why that was so powerful for me,
Yeah.
but it felt like a blessing
Yeah.
without words of blessing.
It's amazing.
And it changed me. I thought, I want to know more about what he knows.
Yeah.
And I want to be a student of life that takes me beyond reading, writing, and arithmetic, although those things are important too.
Yeah.
And it has rewarded me with not only the books that come in to me, but the people I've met and the experiences I've had that defy description.
Yeah.
And I cherish these things.
Yeah.
And I know you and I, Joe, are not the only ones who are, knowing what we're talking about without the details.
Yeah.
We
Absolutely.
all, hopefully, if anyone is fortunate enough to have an experience of the transcendent or the mysterious at its most beautiful,
Yeah.
that's something to savor and cherish.
It's a gift.
Yeah.
So if you could get into a time machine and go back in time and see one writer creating their masterpiece, creating their words, because we see all these exposés and documentaries of people, but you don't really see writers hammering away at the Remington or something like that. Who would you
Yeah.
love to watch? Just see how they did their thing and constructed their pieces.
Wow. Gosh. Well, you mentioned Bukowski,
Yeah, yeah.
and I find him such a dangerous, fascinating person.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And I would love to see him with the energy he would bring to a typewriter.
Yeah.
You know, the kind of self-tormented and determined and irascible, and that I mean, it could have been a bore,
You know,
but
yeah, you don't know.
the idea is that that would be pretty cool to see him at work over a Corona, and
Yeah,
I mean the beer and the typewriter.
absolutely. And then maybe a cat in the corner or something, a
Yeah,
tail swishing
yeah,
around. Yeah. So
yeah.
let me ask you this, staying in that fantastical realm, if you had a dream tonight and you ran into like the 15-year-old version of you in your childhood home, and you
Mm.
walked up and had a book in your hands, and it was like a coffee table book, and you handed it over and said, "This is how your life turned out," would that
Wow.
version of you believe it?
Oh boy. What book would that be? How My Life Turned Out?
Yeah.
An
Like
actual book in existence.
yeah, well, it would be a fantastical book, but it would be your biography. It would be what everything that you've lived up to this point, and your young self would look at it confused, and you would say, "This is my life. This is how it turned out
Wow, how it turned out so far.
so far."
Uh, uh, okay, there's a book by Stuart Wilde called The Quickening.
Yeah,
I like that name, The Quickening,
yeah,
because it is, for me, about the awareness that keeps us present and hopefully moving forward
yeah,
or hopefully moving inward. It's not always about forward, but it is about peeling back layers.
yeah,
And the quickening refers to the speed with which we shed which we no longer need.
yeah,
So there is some saint, Hildegard of Bingen, perhaps, she was a mystic, had said that we grow by subtraction, not addition.
yeah,
I think it was her. It might have been someone else.
yeah,
Anyway, another mystic, but that we grow by subtraction, that what makes us feel good is simplicity.
yeah,
What makes us feel whole is clarity.
yeah,
And that's not always pleasant. Sometimes clarity is hard won. We've gotten clear because we've gone through some very rough patches.
yeah,
But if we're left with clarity, there's a certain peace with that, I think.
yeah. So, of everything you've accomplished, everything you've evolved to and become, what are you ultimately the happiest about, the proudest of?
Hmm. I am proudest of being a friend who listens with total absorption to my friends.
Yeah,
I have a real pleasure in that. I have a capacity for it
yeah.
where I can just give myself over and be your best listener.
We need that.
Um, yeah, sometimes that means asking questions to clarify and probe, and sometimes it's just witnessing.
Yes.
Sometimes it's just being there and letting that person know either on the phone or face to face that you hear them. I know that the people in my life who do that for me, that's gold.
Yeah,
And so I must say that I am proudest that I am that and or can be that for people.
yeah. So at the end of the day, everyone has a perception of you. Family, friends, all of your fans, everyone that you work with and know, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Hmm. I believe that I am a thoughtful person who, and sometimes I am stymied by my own thoughtfulness. I think too much, but I am a thoughtful person. I believe that I am also good company.
I
Now
agree.
that's me in relation to other people. If I say I'm in good company,
Sure.
by myself, I think that I am a curious and joyful person. And sometimes the joy comes from the curiosity.
Yeah. So if you could go back in time and see one event in human history, watch it. It wouldn't create a tear in time. What one human event would you love to have witnessed with your own eyes?
Wow. Oh man. One event in human history.
It's a lot of stuff.
Oh. Um, hmm. I, oh, okay. Um, how about Stonehenge?
Yeah.
How about the creation, the construction of Stonehenge?
Great answer.
Who were these people? How
Huh?
the hell did they do it?
I know.
And and what was there one person that had this uncanny astronomical knowledge to know that the solstice would hit these stones just then? Or was it all of them that knew that? Was it common knowledge? And that fascinates me. So that would be worthy to go back.
Yeah, I love that answer. That's so
Yeah,
cool.
but only for a while. I don't want
Yeah,
to live there.
yeah, right. No, I dig it.
I
So
like modern dentistry.
yeah, I do too, and medicine. So the big ask, if anyone wants to pick up a copy, they want to reach out, any of the other good work, anything going on in your world, where can people go?
They can go to bigaskbook.com and there I have links there to my social media. So you can find me on LinkedIn, you can find me on Instagram, on Facebook, and my book is available through Amazon and really through any independent bookstore. But chances are they'll have to order it. It probably won't be on their shelves,
Okay,
but they can order it.
okay. I will put all these links in the show notes. Paul, this has been an absolute delight. Thank you, sir. Thank you
Joe,
for your
you,
time.
you, you took me to places I never imagined, so this was fun.
You did the same to me, man. That's why this all works. So it's
Okay.
good. Hey, send my love to Chicago and have an absolutely wonderful holiday season. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. You too.
Thank you. Take care.